Hi everyone, it's Mrs. H. I just wanted to do a quick video. We're going to just go over the very basics from 5-6 and 5-7 because tomorrow in class we're going to go over a lot more in depth. So we're talking about fractions. We've actually done some problems like these before, so hopefully these ones that we do together are fairly straightforward. And then I did try to really cut so your asynchronous bookwork today is just ones that are similar to what we're going to do together in this video. If there's any that I missed in the homework, just let me know and you can skip them and, they'll make more sense tomorrow. All right, so we're talking all about fractions. So a couple things you've got to remember about fractions. Here, we are adding and subtracting those fractions, and so we need a common denominator. It's been a while, but we did talk about both GCF and LCM with polynomials. And we haven't looked at LCM in a while, but this is where it's going to come into play. We want to find our least common multiple. I'll do this one all out, but after this first problem, I probably won't do them out this long again. Of course, if you're stuck, you can always do that. So for my first denominator here, I have 6a squared. 6, I'm going to break up into its prime numbers, so it's 2 times 3, and then I get a times a. For my second denominator, I have 3 times b, and I'm lining up anything that I can. For my third denominator here, I just have an a times b. So when I'm thinking about my common denominator, I need to have everything represented. So I'm going to have a 2, I'm going to have a 3, that's going to give me a 6. I'm going to have an a and an a, that's going to give me a squared. I'm going to have a b and a b, that's going to give me b squared. So our common denominator here, we have all set. Now I just need to make every fraction have that common denominator. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to multiply each of these. Let's use purple here. So this one already has a 6 and an a squared. So this first fraction I'm going to multiply just by b squared over b squared. Remember, that's really just 1, so I'm not changing anything. For my second fraction, I have a 3, so I need to multiply by a 2 to get my 6. And then I'm missing the 2a squareds, so I'll multiply top and bottom by 2a squared. And then my last, I'm missing a 6, so I'm going to multiply by 6 on the top and the bottom. I have one a and one b, so I'm missing that second a and that second b. All of these, I'm just multiplying by 1. And now that I have a common denominator, I can, if I want, write it as one giant fraction. My common denominator will be 6a squared b squared. And let's see, I had 1 times b squared, so that's b squared. I had plus 1 times 2a squared, so that's 2a squared. And then minus 2 times 6ab, so that's minus 12ab. We do want to now treat this as if we were in our last section. And we do want to go and see if we can simplify. So I'm going to rearrange the numerator. I have 2a squared minus 12ab, and I have a positive b squared. And I want to see, can I factor? So I'm thinking to myself, let's see, I have a 2a and an a. I will have a b and a b to get that b squared. There's no way for me to get 12 in the middle, and so this does not factor. You do want to check, though, if it factors. Since it does not, I'm done. I don't have a GCF in those. There is my answer for this problem. All right, we're going to have a few others. Number 3 here, similar idea. 4 and 10, well, those both go into 20. And so I need my common denominator. It's going to be 20x squared. Often I'll write that off on the side somewhere just to kind of remind myself. For the left-hand fraction here, I need to multiply by 5 on the top and the bottom. For my right-hand fraction, I need to multiply by 2x in order to get that common denominator. But notice I'm throwing in parentheses. Here, try not to skip too many steps. If you want to, you can just write out what you have. And I would definitely tell you to do this if you have a minus in the middle here, because you have to distribute and you don't want to make any mistakes, silly mistakes distributing. I'm going to distribute my 5. I'm going to distribute my 2. I get in the numerator 10x plus 25 plus 4x squared minus 10x. This is all over 20x squared. My plus 10x and my minus 10x cancel out. So on the top, I have 4x squared plus 25. Oh, I start thinking maybe I have the difference of 2 squares, but it's the sum instead. And so we don't actually have to do anything because I know my numerator is not going to factor. I think that might have been it on here. Oh, one more. One more, and here's that subtraction, just to be careful with it. And then we'll go on talk about a couple from section 5-7. Here, my common denominator is going to be 3x. So I'll multiply here by x over x and here by 3 over 3. I'm not going to skip steps because I know I'll make mistakes if I skip steps. X times x, sure, that's x squared, but now I have minus, and this whole numerator is getting multiplied by 3. So I'm going to put my 3 out in front and then just write it like that as my first step of work. Because now when I distribute, I'm really thinking about distributing a negative 3. I get x squared minus 6x plus 9. That's all over 3x. I actually can factor the top here, so I want to factor, that's going to be x minus 3 times x minus 3. That's all over 3x. For this, for your final answer, I do want you to write it out as x minus 3 all squared. We are going to see some of these where some stuff cancels from this step on. But for now, nothing canceled, and so we're good. We're happy with our answer in our box. All right, so here we're adding and subtracting fractions. Our fractions are just messier than we've seen them before. Now let's go and talk about some multiplying and dividing fractions. Here, these are complicated. So use your colors in order to figure it out. I have plus and minus, so I've still got to do those common denominators, but then on top of plus and minus, I have dividing with this giant fraction bar here. So I'm going to color code my work. Let's do out the numerator here in green, and I'm going to just worry about the numerators to start with. I need a common denominator. That means my common denominator here is going to be 8. I've got to multiply my numbers here by 2 over 2. So I'm going to have 6 minus 1, and now that is all over 8. I am skipping a couple steps here. Of course, write out all your steps if you need them. That's going to give me 5 over 8 as my numerator. Let's do out the denominator in blue here. I have 2, which is really 2 over 1. My common denominator for the bottom here is going to be 12. So I have to multiply this by 12 over 12. And I get 24 plus 1. And so that is now going to give me my denominator. Let me do my giant fraction. And then my denominator here is going to be 25 twelfths. Now, if either of these fractions could simplify, I might want to simplify them to start with, but you don't have to. Because you know how you're going to end up with this dividing here, and you know how to deal with dividing fractions. I'm going to keep my 5/8 as 5/8. This fraction bar is really that giant fraction bar, so that dividing is going to turn into multiplying, and then I'm going to take the reciprocal, so now I have 12 over 25. And now before I multiply these, I'm going to simplify. 5 goes into 5 once, into 25 5 times. Well, 8 doesn't go into 12, but 4 does, and 4 goes into 8, so 4 goes into 8 twice, into 12 3 times. I have a 1 and a 3 on the top, a 2 and a 5 on the bottom. Nothing else cancels, so I have a 3 on the top, and I'll multiply my 2 times 5, and I get 3/10. Now, when you're doing your homework, you could use your calculator to check something like this, but just be extra, extra, extra careful if you are typing this into your calculator to put lots and lots of parentheses in order to have everything nice and set up, okay? Most of your homework is numbers. So again, just use colors, be careful as you go through your numbers. There are a few that deal with x's. So let's take a look at this one. Here in the numerator, I have x over 1 minus 1 over x. My common denominator here is going to be an x, so I need to multiply by x over x here. That means I'm going to have x squared over x minus 1 over x. And so when I combine those, I have x squared minus 1 all over x. I'll leave it like that for now. We probably are going to want to factor after. I have my giant fraction bar, so I'll put my giant fraction bar here. And then let's simplify the denominator. Again, on the denominator here, I'm going to want my common denominator to be x. This is currently 1 over 1. So I'll multiply by x over x. That's going to give me x over x minus 1 over x. So that's going to give me x minus 1 all over x. I know how to divide fractions. I'm going to keep my green fraction the same. And then I'm going to change my division into multiplication. And I'm going to take the reciprocal of my denominator fraction, my bottom fraction. Now, I do want to treat this like one of our problems that we already did in sections 5.4 and 5.5. So here, I want to factor everything that I can factor. So I'm going to factor x plus 1 times x minus 1. That is now going to let me cancel things out. Actually, I'm going to erase and make it look a little bit nicer for you. All right, so now I have, whoops, I stole that x. Whoops. All right, there we go. Whatever, pretend like that didn't happen. Now I can cancel, just like I did before. It just happens that here I have x's, but we know I'm still allowed to do that. X and x. Well, this x minus 1 is really stuck in parentheses, but it cancels with this one. I'm only left with x plus 1 as my final answer here. These ones, again, kind of like in section 5.4 and 5.5, are going to come out really nice in the end most of the time. You just have to be super organized with your work. I think that might have been it. Oh, a couple more here. Actually, I'm going to leave 2. I think you can do that one. Let's just do one more here. Number 1. This is actually the easier one. I have my top fraction. I'll just circle in green. I have my bottom fraction. I'll just circle in blue. I didn't have any adding or subtracting I had to do. So I'll just do my division rules. I have my big giant dividing here. I'm going to change that into multiplying. I flip my blue, so it's 10 over 3x. I cancel what I can. 5 goes into 5 once, into 10 twice. X and x are gone. Sometimes, if I'm looking at this and getting a little mixed up, I'll just rewrite what I have to make sure that I'm not missing anything else. Because I did kind of see those 2 2's, but I want to make sure that I'm canceling everything. Well, nothing else cancels, so I'll go ahead and just multiply, and I get 4/3. All right, so hopefully your homework is pretty straightforward. You might have some like number 4 here, but I think that's enough explanation to go through those ones. Just be really careful. If you have questions, we are going to do more of this in class together on Tuesday. And so just bring your questions with you in class on Tuesday. All right, thanks everyone.